the hospitals around?
Yeah, there is. Is someone following us?
Hey, me and you, we are going to go back to my place. And your friend, I am going to drop her home in your hotel
Should I call the
on the way
police?
back.
Yes.
We are going to have action when we get to my apartment.
You don't look good enough to be that cocky.
Sir, step over here. You're being detained for harassment.
Hey, ChatGPT.
Why did I get rejected so brutally?
Because you are fucking recessed.
Hey guys, it's Parabolin here. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to measure jaw and chin recession, okay? So let's dive right into it. So what is recession? Recession refers to the backward positioning of the mandible or the jaw or chin relative to facial reference points, okay? You guys can look at this little diagram right here that we're going to accompany with a lot of our slides to show the relative positioning of the jaw and the chin along the soft tissue and bone. So recession can be skeletal, okay, bone related, or it can also be soft tissue based. So let's talk about some key landmarks. So as you guys can see, I just included the diagram again, but I also included a picture of an individual, okay? And we can see essentially where all these points in the diagram map to his face, right? The nasal is going to be the bridge of the nose. The subnasal is going to be the base of the nose. The pagonian is going to be the most forward point of the chin. And the gnathian is going to be the lowest chin point. So it's important to keep these landmarks in mind when we are measuring and diagnosing recession along the mandible and the chin, okay? One thing I always recommend before choosing any procedures is proper facial analysis. I offer detailed ratings, structural analysis, custom ascended morphs, and even one-on-one calls to plan everything correctly. And it saves people from making a lot of bad decisions. So we're going to talk about several ways to measure recession, okay? So SMD angle, that's going to be a jaw recession method, facial convexity as well. The E-line method is going to be a chin recession method, okay? And the remaining ones, soft tissue versus bone, X-ray examples, these are going to cover both except for the mild example, okay? So with that in mind, let's talk about the E-line method for measuring chin recession. So this is a pretty standard measurement. All you're going to do is draw a line from the nose tip to the chin. So if we go back to the landmarks, we're looking at the tip of the nose, okay, down to the gnathian, and we draw a line there, and there should be about a 2 to 4 millimeter gap in between the line and the lips. So the chin should be far, if the chin is far behind this line, that means that your chin is recessed, okay? So that's a simple measurement. It's called the E-line Ricketts method. Let's talk about the SMD angle. And again, this is a simple way to measure jaw recession, okay? So the SMD angle, as you guys can see, is going to measure the mandibular position relative to the skull base. Okay, so if we zoom into this diagram, we're essentially drawing an angle, okay, from around the top of the nasal, okay, as you can see, that's around the top of his nose bridge, all the way down to the bottom of the chin, okay, and that's going to be around the gnathian. So if this angle, okay, if this angle is around 80 degrees, that's normal. But if it's below 76 degrees, that means that the mandible is actually recessed, okay? And as you can see, we measure a little bit behind the gnathian, okay, in terms of the position, is that we want to measure the bone here and not necessarily the soft tissue that sits on top of the chin. The next method that we want to talk about, guys, is called facial convexity angle, okay? And this is going to be mostly a jaw recession method. All we're going to do is we're going to take an angle, okay, between the forehead to the nose, okay, to the chin point. So essentially we're looking at, we go back to our landmarks, we're looking at the nasal, okay, to the subnasal, to the gnathian. So those are essentially the three marks that we're hitting. And the more convex the profile, guys, the more recessed it is. Okay, so that's an important thing to keep in mind with this measurement method. So let's talk about soft tissue versus skeletal. Okay, some patients have normal bone, but they tend to have weak soft tissue in their chin. Using methods like palpation and imaging can help to differentiate these things. And mild recession, here's an example of mild recession. Okay, so with the chin is slightly posterior to the ideal line, as you can see in the diagram, okay, above the woman. That's typically a sign of mild recession, okay? And as we can see, this lady, she does have a mildly recessed chin, okay? As you can see, it's not severe. If we drew a line down to her chin, we can see that there's not much of a gap in between that line and her lips, okay? Here's an example, guys, of severe recession, okay? Here, the chin is far behind the lips and the nose. This is often associated with bite issues and airway problems, okay? So you guys can look at these pictures going back and forth and see how much more severe this guy's case is in compared to the female above. Okay, so let's talk about measurement summary. Okay, so typically the best thing to do is to use at least two methods. Okay, so for example, if we were measuring jaw recession, we could use the SNB angle as well as the facial convexity method. And then if we were measuring chin recession, okay, maybe we could use the E-line method, which I think is usually very telling. Plus, we could use the facial convexity method or one of the other methods we talked about, okay? So it's always good to use more than one method to get a measurement or to get a feel for this. Other things to employ are things like profile lines, angles, clinical judgment, as well as imaging. Okay, I think imaging is going to make a huge difference in a lot of these cases because it gives a better picture into the actual tissue and skeletal, okay, dynamics. For example, if we go back up to the SMB angle, okay, this is much easier to do with an X-ray, okay, than it is to just do with the face. But that's it for today's video, guys. Just wanted to show you guys how to measure jaw and chin recession. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.